Why are some B2 students still at intermediate level, even though their grammar is good? Well, the answer could be your pronunciation. In this video, we're going to talk about the rhythm of English and how you can get better scores in your B2 exam. So the first thing to talk about is the problem, and the problem here is the rhythm, or the way we sound to other people. When we talk about rhythm in English, it usually refers to what's called stress timing. So certain words are stressed, for example, nouns, verbs, and adjectives. They are clearer and they have a stronger sound. And we have other words which are unstressed words. Examples are articles, prepositions, and auxiliary verbs. And sometimes they are made shorter or perhaps they are reduced. And here's an example sentence here of how this happens, and you can use this sentence just to show the examples of the stressed words in this sentence. And the words here are decided, change, job, because, to, and stressful. And the other words in the sentence are. So are there any exercises you can do for this? Yes, there are. You can do an exercise similar to what we've just done, where you identify the stress in the sentence and say which word is stressed in the sentence. You can also clap the stress, and this can be quite useful where you identify the stress words and then as you're speaking you clap the stress, because the time is about the same between each word that is stressed. You can also do some practice with weak forms, and like all of these example exercises here, there is a link to a worksheet that you can download. And you can also do an exercise with trying to keep the rhythm as your sentence gets longer. It is easy to keep the rhythm in a very short sentence, like for example, I live in London. So it is a useful exercise to try and do this with longer sentences. And then finally, you can do some practice with chunking. And we're going to talk about chunking now. Chunking is the way that we break up a sentence. We don't always use one breath and say the full sentence. So it is a natural pause or a break where we divide the speech or what we're saying into small, meaningful groups. And if we look at this sentence here, we can see there would be a pause here. Chunking is a natural pause where we divide our speech into small, meaningful groups of words. So what can we say about these chunks? We usually have one or more of the following. Normally it's one single idea, and this is also called a thought group. And if you search for this term, you'll find a lot of examples and explanation of this. It usually has just one main stress in the chunk. And then finally, you may find an intonation movement where the voice goes up or the voice goes down. And here's our example sentence, and here we can see that it splits in the middle. We have two parts to this. We have, I decided to change my job, pause, because it was too stressful. And this is why chunking can be useful in communicating your ideas to other people. So what can you do with sentence chunking exercises? Well, one thing you can do is to read aloud. In fact, any text is fine, and just read it slowly and listen to what you are saying and how you're breaking up the sentence. You can mark the chunks as we did, where you can say, okay, I think there's a natural pause here in the sentence, and this will also help you. You can also do what's called shadowing, and this is a technique where a teacher reads a text and the student follows immediately. They try to repeat what the teacher is saying. And there are many examples on YouTube of this type of exercise, especially with pronunciation. And of course, when you are doing activities, you should record yourself and listen back and see what you're doing. So any kind of practice that you do, you should record. And there are plenty of resources online. You can search for thought group videos. This will also give you some more examples. As we mentioned, you can search for videos to shadow native speakers, and they don't have to be English language study videos. Any video is useful. So just to summarize what we've talked about here, if you use stress correctly in the sentence, it makes your speech more natural. You do need to practice regularly. Don't spend too long. Spend a little bit of time, 5 or 10 minutes on pronunciation can help you a lot. And make sure you record yourself so you can listen back and see what you think of what you've done. And then finally, there are online resources, BBC Learning English, YouTube. A lot of BBC learning videos are also on YouTube nowadays, but do look for some resources that work well for you. And just to remind you that there is a link in the description to a worksheet on sentence stress.